In the year 1212, a young boy, a self-proclaimed prophet, emerged from the heart of Germany. A shepherd turned Messiah. He said God had chosen him for a holy mission. Instead, he led nearly 30,000 children to their deaths. This is the story of Nicholas of Cologne, the German prophet who promised miracles and delivered a tragedy. Nicholas was a shepherd boy, young, poor, and unknown. Famine and poverty were widespread in the early 1200s. Disease was a constant threat, with life expectancy being between 30 and 40 years old. 90% of the population were peasants, living in one-room huts shared with livestock, surviving off bread and porridge. Most of them were serfs, illiterate, with no education and legally bound to the land owned by their local lord. But the church was central. Every village had a priest, and peasants went to mass and followed feast days. They believed deeply in miracles and saints. And one day, Nicholas claimed he was receiving visions from God with a call for peace. He wouldn't fight the Muslims. He would convert them peacefully. That he would be the one to accomplish what no Christian before him could, a bloodless conversion. His plan? To lead a children's crusade to the Holy Land. No weapons, no armies, just faith, and one tiny miracle, that he would part the sea and it would let them through. Nicholas began traveling and preaching across German villages, drawing people to him. Children, boys and girls from poor families, orphans, peasants, some barely old enough to speak, and others drawn by stories of salvation, adventure, and purpose. He preached with a strange, captivating certainty, the steady burn of someone chosen. He told stories of dreams sent by God, of a journey to the Holy Land, of a sea that would part just as it had for Moses in the scattered villages of 13th century Germany. It was more than just a message, it was a miracle. Nicholas offered purpose. He spoke to the hungry, the orphaned, the forgotten, and when he did, they listened, and words spread like wildfire. But there was a boy in Cologne gathering the innocent. They came barefoot from every corner, farmhands, shepherds, altar boys, even the daughters of merchants. Some slipped away in the night. Others were led by their parents who hoped the journey might cleanse their sins, or at least put food in their mouths. And at the center of it, Nicholas, barely 12, but already a shepherd to thousands. By summer, Nicholas could no longer contain them. They spilled into the roads, tens of thousands strong. Two great streams, one heading toward the Alps, the other toward Italy. They carried crude wooden crosses, painted banners, and the weight of belief that the seas would open at their feet. But the road was long, and the mountains waiting. The Alps proved to be too much to handle. As they climbed higher, spring turned to snow. Roads became ice. Paths vanished beneath white drifts. Frostbit blackened toes. Hunger hollowed out faces. The air grew thin, the nights colder. Children collapsed by the dozens, some froze in place, their bodies discovered only days later by those still trudging forward. Others wandered off, delirious, never seen again. 2 out of every 3 children died on this journey. And still, Nicholas pressed on, his belief unshaken, or his pride too big. By late August, Nicholas and around 7,000 of his survivors finally stumbled into Genoa, exhausted, starving, waiting for the impossible. Nicholas led them to the water's edge and waited for it to split. It didn't. Silence, then murmurs, then rage. Some cursed his name, others dropped to their knees in disbelief, still convinced God would change his mind. The Genoese authorities, sympathetic, offered citizenship. Few accepted because Nicholas refused. He had not come this far to surrender. Nicholas moved south to Pisa, his followers dwindling by the day. Some called him a prophet, clinging to the belief. Others whispered he was a fraud. 2 ships, bound for Palestine, agreed to carry the last group of remaining children. Desperate, the group finally abandoned Nicholas, boarding the ship. However, they never reached the Holy Land. They were never heard from again. It is believed most of the children were sold into slavery or killed. Nicholas continued on, clinging to his fading legend. He arrived at the Papal States and met the Pope Innocent III himself. The Pope listened and then told the boys to go home, to be good, to let it go, and that his mission was complete. But there was no home. Nicholas tried to return to Germany, but the Alps would not forgive him. He died crossing a second time. And back in Cologne, the reckoning came. The parents of the lost, the grieving, the furious, the betrayed, wanted someone to blame. They found Nicholas's father, dragged him into the streets, beat him, tried him, hanged him. He was the father of the prophet who had promised salvation and delivered silence, and they silenced him for good. So what was Nicholas really? Leave a comment. Do you think he was a master manipulator and scammer, or just a true believer who got in too deep? In 1212, Western Europe was steeped in millenarian beliefs, apocalyptic expectations tied to prophecy, visions, and divine missions. A charismatic young boy claiming defined purpose would have found fertile ground among people desperate for meaning in their lives. It's possible he never intended to trick anyone. Maybe he believed it, truly and deeply, until the world began to believe. And once it grew beyond him, there was no safe way down, only forward, deeper. He might have doubled down out of fear or pride or sheer belief in his own myth. But the moment at the Genoa harbor when the sea didn't part should have shattered the illusion. Yet still, Nicholas and others continued. Modern psychology would label this mass psychogenic illness, or folie à plaisir, a shared delusional belief system fueled by groupthink. Each town Nicholas entered amplified his myth. Stories spread by word of mouth, growing in awe and detail with each retelling. But in the end, he was just a boy. And the tragedy of the children's crusade wasn't that he fooled so many people, but that so many wanted to be fooled. A false messiah born out of true desperation. Not the last, and certainly not the worst. Subscribe for more stories of history's greatest liars, manipulators, misleaders, and deceivers.